Hello and welcome to Battle of the Ports, and a game that was talked about a lot back in the day. This is Wizball, that was first released on the Commodore 64 in May 1987. Wizball is a horizontally scrolling shooter, written by John Herr and Chris Yates. Wizball is set in the once colourful realm of Wizworld, where the evil Zark has stolen all the colour, making it dull and grey. It's up to Wiz and his cat Nifta to restore it all to its former brilliance. Wizball is apparently inspired by Gradius, with an additional collection dynamic taking place over 8 levels. However, the aim of the game is to collect droplets of coloured paint to colour the level. Each level starts off as monochromatic, drawn in 3 shades of grey, and needs 3 colours, red, blue and green, to be collected to complete it. Each level has bouncing spears of different colours, and shooting them will release droplets, which may be collected. Each level needs a different colour to be added, which can be composed by collecting enough quantities of the correct colours. On later levels, the spheres of paint start shooting bullets, adding to the challenge. Wizball is a smooth and, at the time, quite a good game, but these days the game will become boring rather quickly, as there isn't much depth to the game, as each stage has you doing the same basic thing, and not to mention that it does take quite some time to collect the required amount of paint. The first port is on the ZX Spectrum, and it's not very good. The biggest issue is that the enemies that drop the power-up orbs are always right in your bounce path, making it far more difficult than it should be to actually shoot one of them. In many cases you can't help but plow straight into them. This makes progress within the game a right struggle. Then there are the graphics. Yeah, not the best if we're honest. Add in the constant fluctuant background noise and you find yourself becoming quite frustrated all too quickly with this one. The Amstrad CPC version is next, and while not as fluid as the C64 version, it is nice and I'd say better looking than the ZX Spectrum release. The issue I find with this port is that the little enemies that produce the orbs don't show up often enough, making it more of a pain when trying to power up your ball. But at least it's easier to avoid them, unlike the ZX Spectrum version. The French Thomson MO5 also got a port of Wizball, which is surprising. This looks quite similar to the ZX Spectrum version in terms of how the colour is handled, but thankfully it plays more like the Amstrad CPC version, but maybe not as fluid. Not a bad port, but lacking in areas, especially the sound. MS-DOS is next with a pretty crappy port, mainly because I can't get the power-ups to work. They are activated in the same way as all the other versions, but for some reason they just don't seem to work when waggling the joystick. The game also suffers from slowdown, which, while helpful at times, can also be a hindrance at others. I'm not a fan of this version. The Amiga is next with the best looking version so far, with its parallax scrolling and probably the one with the most control of the ball. Yet something isn't right. I think it's the rate of fire. The game doesn't feel as fluid as the Commodore 64 original. In fact, I'm sure it's the rate of fire. Taking down enemies is way more cumbersome than the C64 version. And we'll finish off with the Atari ST version that looks pretty much like the Amiga version, but does sound worse. Or maybe that depends upon your taste. What is obvious though is that this ST version controls a bit better due to a faster shooting rate, which really helps with the gameplay. It's still not as good as the original C64 version, but still, not a bad effort overall. And let's take a look at all those versions of Wizball running side by side.